From humble beginnings on dusty fields to the dazzling lights of stadiums filled with roaring fans, the journey of the National Football League is a testament to the power of passion, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. To understand the scale of this organization is to understand the history of American ambition, business consolidation, and cultural domination. The NFL today stands as the undisputed commercial and cultural Goliath of American sports, a colossal enterprise whose estimated annual revenue hovers around $23 billion, maintaining a near-total monopoly on professional football in the United States. But this organization, now overseeing 32 professional teams, was forged not in a gleaming financial boardroom, but in a dusty auto dealership after a war. The story begins in the turbulent American Midwest following World War I. At the time, the sports environment was overwhelmingly dominated by collegiate football, a golden era of the gridiron, where legends were penned by hyperbolic sports writers. Programs like the University of Notre Dame under the larger-than-life coach Knut Rockne commanded national attention, establishing football as a spectacle. Meanwhile, professional football was a financial wreck. Small, localized leagues in Ohio and Indiana were financially volatile and structurally unsound. They lacked any championship format, operated without a unified rule system, and constantly engaged in ruthless player poaching, overpaying to secure the most popular college athletes, a desperate strategy that only led to financial bubbles and repeated team collapses. This chaos brought a group of small business owners together. On the 20th of August 1920, in a Hupmobile auto showroom in Canton, Ohio, a cabal representing teams like the Akron Pros and Canton Bulldogs met. Their goal was simple: to bring commercial order and stability to a landscape defined by instability. Largely driven by George Halas, who would later become instrumental in creating the Chicago Bears, they agreed to draw up a framework for an organized league. This organization, initially christened the American Professional Football Conference, was quickly formalized with 14 teams and renamed the American Professional Football Association, APFA. To give this nascent league instant credibility and drawing power, they made a brilliant, savvy move, naming Jim Thorpe, then the most famous and accomplished athlete in the world, as its first president. The league struggled violently. Only 4 of the founding teams completed the first 1,920 season. But the foundation was laid. The name was officially changed to the National Football League, NFL, in 1922, and slowly, 2 of its original teams, the Decatur Staleys, now the Chicago Bears, and the Racine Cardinals, now the Arizona Cardinals, endured, proving that professionalism could survive. By 1933, the league formalized its competition structure, hosting the first official title game between the champions of the Eastern and Western divisions. The NFL was now ready to claim its piece of the American sports market, a claim solidified when the league adopted a formal annual draft in 1936 to prevent the wealthiest teams from monopolizing college talent. The path to stability, however, was interrupted by global conflict. World War II brought a dramatic new set of challenges. As young men across the country volunteered or were conscripted into military service, the league faced a severe player shortage. To survive, the NFL was forced into desperate measures, allowing temporary mergers of rival teams. Most famously, the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers combined their rosters to form the Steagles for the 1943 season, while the Chicago Cardinals and Pittsburgh Steelers merged to form the Card Pit team in 1944. These unique, short-lived combinations underscored the fragility of the league structure even decades after its founding. Following the war, the NFL cleaned up its most glaring flaws. After unofficially stopping the signing of black players in 1927, the NFL was forced to reintegrate in 1946, bringing new talent and a broader audience base. Though the long fight for true diversity had only just begun, the office of league president evolved into the centralized, more powerful commissioner post, mirroring a similar consolidation of power in baseball. teams became far more financially viable, solidifying the league's economic foundation. The major factor that propelled the NFL from a regional interest to a national phenomenon was television. Unlike baseball, which was perceived as more radio-friendly, football, with its explosive stop-and-start action and inherent violence, was ready-made for the small screen. It was a tailor-made spectacle for the emerging medium. By 1958, the NFL championship game between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants, known as the greatest game ever played, was broadcast nationally and captivated the country, signaling that the NFL was firmly on its way to dominance. That dominance, however, was swiftly challenged. In 1960, the American Football League, AFL, was founded. This was no minor threat. The AFL was the marketing brainchild of savvy entrepreneurs who aggressively pursued lucrative, large-scale television contracts and secured top-tier college and professional players to ensure instant audience appeal, even going so far as to sign star quarterbacks like Joe Namath. A true rivalry, a war for talent and audience, had begun. The battle raged, but by 1966, the NFL owners, under the masterful leadership of iconic Commissioner Pete Rozelle, recognized the immense financial potential of union, not competition. Rozelle negotiated the definitive merger with the AFL, a strategic move fully in place by the 1970 season. This merger instantly expanded the league, created the two-conference structure we know today, and gave birth to the Super Bowl, a championship game designed as a massive interleague spectacle. The Super Bowl swiftly became the most-watched annual sporting event in the United States, cementing the NFL's monopoly and financial destiny. Rozelle's influence extended beyond the merger. He famously championed the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which allowed the league to negotiate a single collective television contract for all its teams, a move that legally cemented the league's ability to pool its assets and share revenue, a cornerstone of its later success. However, his tenure was also marked by the controversial Rozelle Rule, an anti-competitive labor policy that required teams signing a free agent to compensate that player's former team, effectively preventing free agency and suppressing player movement and salaries for decades, until it was successfully challenged in court in 1976, leading to the gradual introduction of modern free agency. The merger was the turning point that allowed the NFL to evolve into the financial and cultural force it is today. The league's strength is its ingenious business model, which is fundamentally different from other major sports. The NFL operates on a two-tiered system of revenue generation: national revenue and local revenue. The true financial genius lies in the national revenue, which consists primarily of its massive television deals, along with merchandising, licensing contracts, and corporate sponsorships, all negotiated at the centralized league level. Crucially, this national revenue is then divided equally among all 32 teams, regardless of individual market size, performance, or even stadium sales. For the 2024 season, this national distribution alone reached over $416 million per team, ensuring an unprecedented financial stability for all franchises, from New York to Green Bay, and fostering the competitive balance known as parity. The NFL is far less reliant on local revenue streams, ticket sales, local team sponsorships, than any other major sports league. The league dramatically expanded its visibility in 1970 with the debut of Monday Night Football, a programming innovation that brought professional sports into prime time for the first time, establishing a weekly national habit for millions of viewers. The numbers are staggering. The league oversees a massive, long-term television rights deal with major broadcasters, including CBS, Fox, NBC, Amazon, and ESPN, which is collectively valued at well over $100 billion, and runs through the 2033 season. Broadcast games dominate programming on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights. The 2021 regular season drew a phenomenal average of more than 17 million viewers per game. In the 2024 financial year, the NFL reportedly generated more than $23 billion in total revenue, putting it squarely on track to achieving Commissioner Roger Goodell's goal of reaching $25 billion in annual income by 2027. This exponential revenue growth is directly tied to the league's salary cap, the maximum amount a team can spend on player salaries. The cap has exploded from $123.6 million in 2013 to over $255 million in 2024, directly reflecting the massive increase in broadcast money that flows down to the players. The average attendance at live games remains massive, exceeding 67,000 per game. As of the latest estimates, the average value of each of the 32 franchise teams is now approximately $7.1 billion, underscoring the vast, centralized, and constantly expanding financial clout of the NFL. Beyond the balance sheets and multi-billion-dollar TV deals, the NFL is deeply woven into the fabric of American society and culture. Football is more than a sport. It is often cited as a metaphor for core American ideals, emphasizing teamwork, aggressive competition, perseverance, and territorial conquest, traits that resonate deeply with national values. The connection to notions of militarism and struggle allows the league to seamlessly integrate its identity with foundational aspects of American patriotism. The NFL has, in essence, claimed the American fall and winter cultural calendar. The season is defined by its rituals, which define communities and social interaction across the country. This starts with the widespread tradition of tailgating at stadium parking lots, a form of communal celebration and preparation before games that is unique to the American sports experience. The league has successfully claimed multiple holidays. The annual football broadcasts on Thanksgiving Day are a central tradition for millions of families across the country. And the Super Bowl has become a de facto holiday, creating a unifying national spectacle of sport, consumerism, and advertising. The massive viewership has led to perennial calls to declare the Monday after the Super Bowl a national holiday to allow for recovery from the emotional and celebratory drain of the event. However, the league's story is also punctuated by dramatic, often contentious franchise movement. The owners, while benefiting from the shared revenue model, have frequently leveraged the threat of relocation to secure public funding for new stadiums, leading to heartbreak and anger in established cities. Historic movements, such as the Baltimore Colts moving to Indianapolis in the dead of night in 1984, and the subsequent highly charged moves of the Oakland Raiders to Los Angeles and then back to Oakland, and finally to Las Vegas, have created deep rifts in fandom and local identity. The Cleveland Browns' departure to become the Baltimore Ravens in 1996, followed by the establishment of a new Browns franchise, demonstrated the profound cultural and economic impact these transactions have on local municipalities, a dark side of the league's immense corporate power. Even the player acquisition process has become a cultural event. The NFL Draft, held every spring, has been transformed from a simple team selection into a massive, televised, multi-day spectacle that draws millions of viewers and serves as the primary way for fans to reconnect with their teams in the off-season. The league's star players, from the iconic Jim Brown and Joe Namath to modern figures like Patrick Mahomes, become national heroes, often using their celebrity platforms to influence public discourse. The league's continued expansion into global markets, with games staged in the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, and Mexico, forecasts its potential future as a truly global sport. Exported successfully as an American cultural commodity, the league's unparalleled size and financial power have also created unprecedented institutional problems. Under the controversial tenure of Commissioner Roger Goodell, 2006, the league has struggled with systemic issues related to integrity, social responsibility, and player health. Given the financial dimensions and public visibility of the game, league officials have been heavily criticized for being perceived as slow to respond to public condemnation of players' off-the-field behavior, particularly incidents of domestic abuse, sexual assault, and drug use. Critics argued that the financial preservation of the league and its stars often took precedence over social accountability. This tension exploded into a political and cultural firestorm, starting in 2016, when San Francisco 49 ERS quarterback Colin Kaepernick began kneeling and sitting during the performance of the national anthem as a form of protest against racial and social injustice. As other players joined, the league and Commissioner Goodell grappled with intense public scrutiny. The protest became even more widespread and politically charged when President Donald Trump declared in September 2017 that all players choosing not to stand during the national anthem should be fired. Ultimately, Commissioner Goodell maintained that the league did not want the game of football to become political. While he announced that he believed all players should stand for the anthem, he did not introduce official disciplinary actions, a measured political move that avoided direct confrontation over the players' right to protest, while still appeasing some owners and audiences. The episode underscored the difficulty of managing a sport that is now inseparable from American political and cultural identity. The most disturbing and existential long-term threat facing the NFL is the crisis of player safety and concussions. The league's initial response was deeply flawed. It created the Mild Traumatic Brain Injury (MTBI) Committee in 1994, but this body was later heavily criticized for consistently downplaying the severity of brain injuries in football throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, with internal reports minimizing the risk. It was only after independent medical research, mounting evidence of tragedy among retired players, and the groundbreaking work of doctors like Bennett Omalu, that the league's position began its slow, painful shift. The sheer scale of the crisis was confirmed when, in 2013, the NFL reached a massive $765 million settlement with thousands of retired players who alleged the league concealed the long-term dangers of concussions, a legal acknowledgement of the tragedy. By 2017, greater independent research continued to strongly support a definitive and terrifying connection between long-term football playing and the degenerative brain disease chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. Several neuropathologists, after examining the brains of a large selection of deceased NFL players, concluded that the disease was undoubtedly prevalent in those who had been playing for many years, forcing the league to address the issue head-on through sweeping policy and rule changes. Since 2002, the league has instituted over 50 rule changes intended to eliminate potentially dangerous tactics and reduce the risk of injuries, radically altering how the game is played. Rule changes to protect the head included prohibiting a defender from using the helmet, forearm, or shoulder to make contact with the head or neck of a defenseless player, starting in 2009. This was followed in 2013 by prohibiting a runner from initiating contact with the top or crown of the helmet, a fundamental change to tackling technique. Special teams reform involved a critical move in 2011 to move the restraining line for the kicking team back to the 35-yard line to reduce high-speed collisions, which immediately led to a remarkable 40% drop in concussions on kickoffs. Tackling technique bans have been continually introduced, including the recent 2024 ban on the controversial hip drop tackle, a maneuver shown to cause severe ankle and knee injuries at a rate nearly 20 times higher than other tackle types. The league has also significantly enhanced its concussion protocol, requiring extensive preseason baseline neurological exams for all players, and mandating that any player exhibiting gross motor instability or significant loss of balance must be immediately removed and taken to the locker room for evaluation by independent neurologists. Handling these existential safety issues, including driving innovation in helmet design and funding research into detecting CTE in living players, will most certainly determine the continued cultural and commercial success of the NFL, a league that has become nothing less than an essential American institution. The future of the game rests on its ability to reconcile the violence that makes it compelling with the medical mandate to protect its players. The game's drama is now inseparable from the drama of its ethical and physical challenges, a defining tension that drives the sport forward into an uncertain yet universally watched future.